Hello and welcome to Living with Annietude Conversations with Mike. We are doing yet another off the cuff conversation because as we speak throughout the day, we come up with topics that are just amazing and we can't wait. So now that we have LinkedIn Live, that's my LinkedIn Live dance, we can talk about important topics. And one of which we spoke about early this morning was surrounding yourself with the right people and how important that is. I want to hand it over to you because I want to hear what you have to say about it, but I'm talking about personally, professionally, and what that sort of means to you.
So personally, for me, there's multiple levels, right? There's mind, heart, and soul. So I am now surrounding myself with people that connect on all three levels, right? And I am attracting people that connect with me on all three levels. So it's a major paradigm shift for me because, it was for me in business, it was always easy to make the right connections. It became very natural for me, right? Because, I'm a conduit, I'm a catalyst. I ignite people. I help them be their best selves daily, right? And I wasn't doing it for myself. Now that I'm doing it for myself, I finally have reached a point where on a personal level, I'm allowing myself to connect with people on all three levels. And the paradigm shift that's going on in my world right now is like miraculous almost because synchronicity is kicking in, things are falling in place. I'm not fighting any of it that hard. It's just I'm just swimming with the stream instead of upstream, right? I'm not fighting internal battles anymore. I'm not trying to push things down and bury them and hide behind work like I used to, which is big for me because my default was, being sober was to become a workaholic and hide behind work. So now I am appreciating every moment I have, good and bad, and I'm allowing myself to be present in those moments. And work is there, and I do a ton of it still, but it's different now. It's not my first go-to or even priority anymore because I have faith in what I've done and what I've been building.
Okay, so you have to put self first, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's difficult for both of us, definitely. What I'm finding in my so the story is, if anyone ends up listening, I graduated school and COVID hit right at the end of school, and I had started my own business, and right now I'm sort of navigating what I'm doing with my career. They love when I'm on live. They love when I'm live. It's like they're like magnets.
Go finish your breakfast.
So
we gotta roll with it. It's Saturday. It's their time. It's fun.
It is, and it's kids, and it's life.
Yep.
So no worries.
It is.
I think that they feel my presence, and undoubtedly, like, you do lives all the time, and no one bothers you.
I know, but
when I'm on with you, it's like right to you.
Yeah, 100%.
But I was saying that I'm currently navigating my career trajectory right now. So what I'm going to do next, whether it's and I will continue to build my business, but whether it's to bring that to the next level or find my home at a company or organization that aligns with my values. So it made me think of surrounding myself with the very best people, because I do believe that a true leader and, the strongest companies and organizations have the leaders surrounded by the smartest, best people. So, I'm sort of looking at that when I'm looking at different companies. Do you agree with that?
Yes. And the thing that I'll add to that is the only reason that I'm focusing more on myself is because that's the piece I've been lacking, right? So I've always done that well in business. I've always surrounded myself with the right people in business. I've always put myself in the right circles. I've always been able to strategically lay that out so that no matter what phase of my growth that I'm at business-wise, I've been able to capture that and move forward. So I've been able to utilize that to, build my relationships that I've built over the years.
We have a little visitor, Ty McGilberry, who's a great guy. I absolutely adore him, and he said, "You need to roll with it." Should be the official slogan for 2020. That's so true. Go ahead.
I'm an extreme contrarian to 2020, right? I believe it's the best year of my life. I believe that this year has brought the biggest blessings into my world that I have ever imagined, and it's my moment to move to the next level in every capacity.
You know what? You're not the only one. You know, there's definitely a silver lining to all of this horror that we are going through. And, you know, I never want to make light of anything that's going on in the world or with the pandemic or with the social unrest or anything like that. I don't want to make light of that, but I think it's really important to note that it really does have to do with like your Annietude, the way you look at things and your perspective, and whether you jump on these things as opportunities or you say, oh, you know, business stinks and no one's spending money and everybody's scared and people are sick and we can't go out. It's like, well, look, to me, like me and you, I feel like as you know, we've done business together, like it's so much about collaboration and connection and, you know, making this into something way more than it ever was, like you just said.
I think it's a combined effort, right? And that's because we're both working on ourselves as well. So I feel like as we're working on ourselves and as this year has kind of forced us to do so, because in a lot of ways it's forced us to do so, we're evolving out of this, right? And our business mentality and our mindset in business is evolving from this. So I feel like at this point, it's nothing but straight up. So another magical thing that happened this year, no matter which opinions you agree with and which opinions you don't agree with, because of the extremes that are going on in the world right now, it's giving people an amplifying voices, right? It's giving everyone something to stand behind. Now, if you don't agree with the opinion, doesn't mean you have to hate on the opinion, right? It doesn't mean that you have to, you know, you acknowledge it. Maybe you try to understand it, right? And you try to look at the other perspectives without judgment. And that's where the internal work comes from, right? Is that freeing of outside judgment, because you're not judging yourself, which is my post this morning, right? So I think as people are beginning to awaken or evolve or move to their personal next level, the business will do the same, and then society will do the same.
Well, and what you're seeing too is just this empathy and compassion in action, you know, versus before that's not what existed. And we're seeing the shift, and it's gradual. I think it's faster probably with people like us who are really super in touch with our emotions. But it's a gradual shift, and I'm starting to see it with companies that are like have been interested in me and that I've met with, you know, sort of their whole leadership realm has changed.
Well, and it's going to continue to evolve, right? And unfortunately, that means leaders that aren't evolving are going to probably be left out of the picture as time moves forward. So what's going to happen is people that are moving themselves to the next level personally while in these struggles are going to end up being the next leaders, right? Yeah. And it's going to bring a lot more people to the table to have a voice and have a chance.
Well, that's what I meant the other day when I posted about follow-up. It's just like these are opportunities that are right in front of us. Like opportunities are lost if you don't follow up, if you don't, you know, talk to the right people, if you're not bold and you don't ask for what you want. Like these are the times to jump on those opportunities. These are the times to emerge and evolve. And I mean, I'm seeing that personally, and I know you are. So it's not just us, you know, it's definitely happening across the board. And
well, I think follow-up is more important now than ever, right? Because everybody's so much more distracted. I mean, whether it's the election, whether it's the racism issues, whether it's the Me Too thing, whether it's sexism, whether it's, you know, gender biases, whether it's, I mean, no matter what the circumstance is, right? There's so much layers to it, and there's so many distractions out there right now that things are slipping through the cracks like they never would. Yeah. So if you're not following up right now, then you're losing probably the biggest opportunity of your life, because if you find a way to resonate with somebody and you're not following up, then you're missing out on an enormous opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's happening a lot, which is why I created that post, because I wanted to remind people, like, look at the week that's just gone by and take a look and reflect, you know, on what you've done and who you've spoken to and the contacts that you've made, and make sure to plan your next week or the next week or whatever it is to follow up because of these opportunities. This is the time. Like, it goes both ways. People are alone. People are depressed. People are isolated. But at the same time, there's more. It's so weird. It's like there's more connectedness and there's more empathy and there's more compassion at the same time. So, I think we have to take advantage of that and push forward and continue to evolve into better selves, our best selves, versus being stuck the way that many of us, have been in the past.
Well, and I think, right, like, let's look at you this week, right? So Sunday night, you weren't feeling you had a lot going on in your mind and you were getting a little overwhelmed. Monday, you got news that didn't make you wait, is this a holiday week? Okay.
No. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday, I just got word of me.
Right. So you got news that you didn't want to get, and it made you very upset, and it kind of put you down. And then as you started coming out of it, you grew to a new level. And they just keep coming in. You evolved to a new level within yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you felt it happen. Yeah, and you felt this empowerment that you've never felt from being able to bounce back out of it, right?
The resilience factor.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, I mean, you also started perceiving alone different. Because even if you're physically alone, you're finally understanding that you're never alone, right? And you're finally accepting the feeling of not being alone. And that's been an enormous difference for you and for me this week, right? Like, I mean, that's one of my biggest things. I feel alone, right? Because of my circumstance. I feel out of touch with people that, I deeply care for because I'm in this circumstance. Mm-hmm. And one thing that this week really resonated with me is that I'm not at all. And I accept that today.
And that circles back to everything we were talking about with surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah. It's about having that circle that, you trust and you love and you respect and you want in your corner, right? It's deeper than just a normal relationship. You're allowing it to have this deep-rooted bond that, is uncomfortable at times and feels unnatural at times. But we're embracing it more, right? We're starting because of the circumstances and situations, we're learning to adjust as human beings to be able to fit in this circumstance better. And as we evolve forward, it's going to make, when life goes back to normal in whatever capacity that is, it's really going to change our perspective on all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing transformation when, like, your whole life you can feel alone. Whether I've felt alone before in the past when I've been with people. I felt alone when I was by myself, but my whole thing, my overarching theme was like, if I'm not involved with somebody, romantically, then I'm alone and that's bad, and that feels horrible. And that feeling has lifted from me. And it has been to a point, like a really, really dark point in the past where I really didn't feel okay. And it has lifted to the point where if I make a choice to be with someone physically, romantically in their space, that's a choice. It's not because I need it. It's because I want to. And there's such a big change in that. It's just it's very present for me right now. It's like I can almost touch it. It's almost tangible, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's a different perspective, right? And it's like that. It's the paradigm shift, right? Because you've hit that other side a little bit. Honestly, I've been in relationships where I still felt alone. I've been in crowds of people and still felt alone. I forced myself into crowds and groups and circles because I always felt alone, and I never received the fulfillment that I have today being alone.
There is something to be said about solitude in a good, positive way.
No, it's.
Are you bolting them out?
No, it's cereal time, and she needed scissors to open the cereal.
Okay. Those are so material, but be careful would be my next 2 words that came out of my mouth. Because I thought maybe
the look just got the door closed. We're good.
Yeah, we're okay for now.
We're good for now.
So there's something to be said for being alone versus loneliness. I think that they're very different, and you don't really embrace loneliness, but you can definitely embrace being alone.
And I agree with you, right? Because the loneliness is a feeling, right? Or absence of feelings, or maybe not a true feeling, but it feels like you're feeling, right? Because it draws out
Whatever.
It's a catalyst for feelings. That's what I think is a good term for it, because it enables other feelings, the fear, the insecurities, the resentments, it brings it all out, right? Straight to the surface, and then you just get consumed in that, right? So I feel that being physically alone, which is kind of where I'm at, don't get me wrong, I have my 3 kids, but it's not the same, right? I have no adult interaction and whatever else. It's difficult. It's very hard at times, right? And there are moments that I feel alone, right?
And rightly so. I mean, that makes sense. If you didn't feel that way, that might be a little strange. So I think it makes sense.
Right. But I'm learning to allow it now, right? And I'm learning to let it flow and not let it become a situation where those emotions are taking me down, because they used to.
And
right?
and you know what else? That whole thing with surrounding yourself with the right people doesn't necessarily have to mean physically in the room with them. Like, when you have the right support in your life and the right people surrounding you, you can reach out to them and still have their support, and it's unconditional, and it doesn't feel like, if they're not right there with you, that you're just going to crumble.
Yes. I agree 100%. And I also think there's a sliver of hope that at some point you're in that physical space, right? That at some point it will go back to some type of normalcy, and the opportunity to be in that person's physical space, and even if it's just embracing in a hug, even if it's just friends, even if it's just sitting face to face and having a conversation.
Sure, there's definitely that piece that's missing.
I mean, it's missing drastically for me right this second. So I have to hold on to that sliver of hope. And that sliver, luckily, is enough to push me through. But there's a lot to be said about hope, right? Because without hope, it's hopeless. So I feel like we just need to be able to create our own hope and create our own, projected hope of what we hope that it becomes. That's a lot of hopes in one sentence.
Yeah, but I get it. I'm with you. I mean, that's why we do what we do. That's why you and I jump on here, because it's passing this message on to other people allows for slivers of hope to be spread through our community and our friends and our network. And that's our whole point. I mean, we don't want people to feel alone. We don't want them to feel hopeless. We want them to know that if you lean into faith or whatever it is that you're leaning into, your higher power, that we can get through this, and we do have each other. And it's important to note that.
Well, and I think that's a good point, right? I mean, we look at faith, we look at fate, we look at, destiny, we look at all these words, right? At the end of the day, if we're not believing in ourselves, we're not going to get anywhere anyway. And I think this time right now has forced a lot of people to look within, right?
And turn the lens inward.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're now realizing, when we used to think that Mary, Bobby, Joey, Billy, all at the office were making me upset every day, and now we're at home and we're still upset every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It forces us to look at this from a different perspective. And, when the guy on the subway getting too close to me would freak me out, right? Or, I would walk near, a homeless man asking for change, and I would have this tremendous amount of guilt because I don't carry cash. I feel like even without those things, we still have the same feelings. So right. Maybe
feelings are still there.
It's not the circumstance. It's not the situation. It's us. And until we address those issues, like me and you are in our own paths and our own ways, it it doesn't matter, right? Those outside things are still there. It's just under a different name, right? Like I have many triggers from my past that, come and bite me in the ass at times, right? And just because my circumstance is different, just because my situation is different, doesn't mean those triggers don't still affect me. But what I'm learning is those triggers only have the power I give them. And as and
Powerful.
as I'm evolving past it, I'm starting to see the fact that those triggers don't have any power, right? Because I'm allowing the trigger to happen, and I'm accepting it as a trigger, and then I'm not getting consumed with it. I'm just moving on.
Just allowing.
Yeah.
That was
purely.
my mantra for 2020 before any of this stuff started, was allow. So it's funny that, going toward the end of the year, we're going into fall, it's like,
which is nuts, by the way.
Which is nuts. And
yes,
in the beginning of the year, that's what I changed my year mantra to. And now we circle toward that to the next year. And it's like, that's really what at least you and I are working on, and the people around us, it's like, that's what I preach. You just have to allow. And when you can allow is when you can move through, instead of trying to go around and get hit by every single obstacle made possible, and you're stuck. You can't go around. You have to go through. And when you
100%.
go through, you allow, then you're at a place of acceptance, and then you're free, because once you accept and allow, you're free. And isn't that the ultimate thing for all of us, is just to reach a point of peace and freedom?
100%, right? Peace, freedom, and contentment, and those are such hard things to find, right? And it's hard to find within ourselves, and it's hard to find within another. So, it's one of those things that it can't be replaced, right? It's irreplaceable when you find that in your life, and finding that allows you to be more comfortable with you, right? Like, at the beginning of the year, I said, this is my Phoenix year, right? This is when I'm going to rise up from the ashes. Now, granted, I didn't know how deep in the ashes I had to go, but I went deep. Right. And that's fine, right? But I labeled this as my Phoenix year. That was my year. This is what I named this year.
Well, that's so interesting that's what you named your year, and I named it Allow, and look where we are. Like, you're rising and I'm allowing. It's crazy how that, like, we sort of predicted that.
Yeah, and it's after almost drowning in the ashes, because, if you look back to the beginning of March until some crazy person sent me a message, like, I was drowning. I was completely drowning, and then I went into my depression for a couple months. And then when I started seeing my way clear of that, it's been nothing but up since. That, that crazy person has just been this unbelievable inspiration in my life that showed me this path that nothing but a lighthouse can do, right? In the biggest of storms and hurricanes.
Well, it works both ways, So, in order for me, to get back to the first point, in order for me to allow, and in order for you to rise from the ashes, we needed each other's help. And I think that is a testament to how we started the whole conversation, which is surrounding yourself with the right people. And we both have a really good network around us of people we can trust. And in the past, I don't want to speak for you, but in the past, I think that we've not had that. And
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go.
I think at different times in my life I had it, but I never had this, right? And this is different this time. It's different for many reasons, right? Because the person that helped bring me back up in a way and showed me the path, also accepted me for where I was at and saw where I was going and helped me see that as well. And that person's faith and belief in me started helping me to have it within myself. Mm-hmm. When in the past, I never allowed it. And that's the difference.
That's the difference. Got it.
So I think the only reason that my Phoenix year became a Phoenix year is because I allowed it.
Amazing. And it all comes full circle. We couldn't have written this any better. We didn't even discuss this before we came on. It's unbelievable.
Which is shocking for Annie, by the way, because Annie's a very structured individual.
I am. You wouldn't know that by seeing my closet, but I am very structured. But yeah, so I think that that's like a perfect way to sort of wrap up, because I think that we really got across our point and like totally without any preparation just came back to square one. And I think it's pretty amazing. So for the rising from the ashes and for the allowing, 2020.
Here it goes. And it's just getting better from here.
It is only better, all good things.
Yes.
So have a good afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
This is my outro. Ready for my outro?
Yeah.
Bye.